The vast darkness of space lit up as hundreds of ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Their metallic hulls gleamed under the distant sunlight, forming a fleet so massive it could block out stars. These were the ships of the Galactic Empire, rulers of over 10,000 worlds across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. In Earth's unified defense command center buried deep under the Rocky Mountains, warning systems blared to life. "Multiple unknown objects detected beyond Pluto's orbit," announced the sensor officer, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Numbers exceeding anything we've ever recorded." Admiral Reynolds stood from her chair, her gray eyes fixed on the main display. After 20 years commanding Earth's defense force, she had prepared for this moment, though many had called her paranoid. "Alert all defense grids. I want every satellite, station, and ship at full readiness," she ordered. "But hold fire until my command." Across Earth, military installations activated. Orbital defense platforms powered up their shields. Hidden missile bases throughout the solar system began target acquisition protocols. The planet's unified military forces, formed after decades of petty conflicts, had finally given way to cooperation, moved with precision that would have been impossible just 50 years ago. "Incoming transmission, Admiral," said Communications Officer Park. "It's broadcasting on all frequencies and in perfect English." Reynolds nodded. "Put it through." The main screen flickered, revealing a humanoid figure with pale blue skin and elaborate golden uniform adorned with what appeared to be military decorations. When it spoke, its mouth moved slightly out of sync with the words. "I am Ambassador Jackson of the Galactic Imperial Fleet. Your primitive but interesting world has been granted the honor of joining our glorious empire. Resistance is both futile and illogical. We bring order, technology, and peace under our rule. You have 6 Earth hours to disband your governments and prepare for imperial administration." The room fell silent. Reynolds studied the alien carefully, noting the arrogance in its posture. "This is Admiral Reynolds of Earth Defense Force. We'll need to consult our governments before responding." As expected of a pre-integration civilization, the ambassador replied with a dismissive wave. 6 hours, Admiral. Not 1 minute more." The transmission ended, and Reynolds immediately connected to the Emergency Planetary Council. Representatives from all Earth nations appeared on separate screens, already briefed on the situation. "They expect us to simply surrender?" asked the representative from Brazil. "Their ships outnumber ours at least 50 to 1, noted the Chinese representative soberly. The American representative leaned forward. "But this is our home. We've faced impossible odds before." For 3 hours, the council debated, analyzed the scans of the Imperial fleet, and considered options. Scientists and military strategists presented assessments. Finally, a vote was called. The result was unanimous. Admiral Reynolds reopened the channel to the Imperial fleet. Ambassador Jackson appeared, looking impatient. "Your decision," he demanded. Reynolds stood tall. "Ambassador, I speak with the united voice of Earth. Our answer is no. Earth will not surrender. Earth will not join your empire. Earth is not yours to claim." For a moment, Jackson's composed demeanor faltered, genuine shock crossing his features. That is impossible. No world refuses the empire. The benefits are enormous. The consequences of resistance are severe." Nevertheless, Reynolds replied calmly, "Our answer remains no. You primitives don't understand what you're facing. We have conquered galaxies." Reynolds allowed herself a small smile. "And you have never faced Earth." The transmission ended at her signal. Around the command center, officers exchanged glances, some fearful, others determined. "They'll attack," said General Morris, head of ground forces. "Yes," Reynolds agreed, "they will. But they'll discover something they've never encountered before." "What's that, Admiral?" asked a young officer. Reynolds turned to face her crew, her expression resolute. "A planet that values freedom more than safety. A species that has spent its entire history fighting against overwhelming odds." She paused. and humans who, despite our differences, will stand united when faced with those who would enslave us. Throughout the solar system, Earth's defenses prepared for the coming storm. The Imperial fleet remained suspiciously quiet for 2 Earth days after the rejection. Admiral Reynolds knew better than to mistake this for hesitation. The enemy was studying them, looking for weaknesses. Multiple small vessels breaking formation, reported Officer Park, eyes fixed on the holographic display. They appear to be scout ships. Reynolds nodded. As expected, let them come within Jupiter's orbit, then activate the outer sensor net. The scout ships, sleek and fast, compared to the bulky Imperial cruisers, moved with precision through the solar system. They passed Neptune, then Uranus, seemingly unaware they were being tracked by Earth's stealth satellites. In an observation deck on the moon base Alpha, Captain Miller watched the incoming scouts with a mixture of dread and determination. His Special Forces team had been training for extraterrestrial encounters for years, but theory was about to become reality. Those ships are following standard search patterns, noted his second-in-command, Lieutenant Baker. They're treating this like a routine mission. Miller's eyes narrowed. That's their first mistake. As the scouts approached Jupiter, Reynolds gave the order. Activate Trojan point defenses. Hidden among Jupiter's Trojan asteroids, unmanned weapons platforms locked onto the nearest scout ships. They fired not destructive weapons, but advanced electronic warfare pulses designed by Earth's best scientists working in secret for decades. 3 scout ships suddenly lost power, drifting helplessly in space. The others scattered, clearly surprised by the attack from what should have been empty space. Capture team. Reynolds commanded through the secure channel. You have a green light. Captain Miller and his team launched from the dark side of Europa in stealth shuttles. Their mission: secure one of the disabled Imperial ships and extract both technology and information. Approaching target, Miller reported as his shuttle silently glided toward the nearest disabled scout. No signs of recovery teams from the main fleet yet. The boarding was textbook perfect. Miller's team, in advanced spacesuits designed for combat in zero gravity, breached the hull and secured the ship in less than 5 minutes. The 6 crew members, all similar to Ambassador Jackson with their blue skin, offered little resistance once they realized they were outmatched. Imperial ship secured, Miller reported. 6 prisoners and intact systems, beginning emergency TOW to Mars base. Back at Earth Defense Command, scientists were already analyzing the data from the encounter. Their technology is advanced, but standardized. Dr. Wilson reported to Admiral Reynolds. Every ship appears identical, every weapon calibrated the same way. There's no variation or adaptation. Reynolds found this curious, a weakness we can exploit. Potentially, Wilson nodded. Their systems are designed for efficiency across massive numbers, not innovation. And there's something else. They seem genuinely confused by our defense strategies. Data retrieved from the captured ship revealed more. The Empire had conquered thousands of worlds using the same approach. Overwhelming force followed by a standard pacification procedure. Most civilizations surrendered immediately. Those who resisted followed predictable defensive patterns the Empire had centuries to master. Earth was different. Humans had developed their technology in isolation, without the standardized approach of the Empire. Earth's defenses were a chaotic mix of strategies developed by different nations before unification, unpredictable and innovative. In the Imperial command ship, Ambassador Jackson faced an uncomfortable conversation with Fleet Commander Taylor. These humans are anomalous, Jackson admitted. Their technology is inferior, but employed in ways we haven't encountered. Taylor's expression darkened. They captured one of our scouts. Impossible. No pre-integration civilization has the capability to. Nevertheless, Taylor interrupted, using the humans' own words against them. They did it, and our standard assessment protocols have failed. Jackson swallowed hard. What are your orders, Commander? Taylor turned to the viewport, studying the distant blue planet. Prepare the first wave. We will follow standard pacification procedures, but triple the force. These humans must learn that resistance to the Empire always fails. Back on Earth, Admiral Reynolds reviewed the captured Imperial tactical manuals with a growing sense of confidence. They rely on overwhelming force, she told the Planetary Council, but they lack adaptability. And now we know exactly how they'll attack. The Imperial attack began precisely as Earth's analysts had predicted. 1,000 warships advanced in a perfect triangular formation toward Mars, the standard pacification pattern described in their tactical manuals. They're following the playbook exactly, Admiral Reynolds noted, a hint of disbelief in her voice. It's like they've never had to adapt their strategies. The Planetary Defense Council watched as the Imperial Armada approached the Red Planet. Mars Colony, originally established as a scientific outpost, had been quietly militarized over the past decade. What the Empire saw as a vulnerable outpost was actually a carefully constructed trap. All Mars defense units, stand by. Major Thompson ordered from his underground command center beneath Olympus Mons. Let them enter optimal range. The Imperial ships moved with mechanical precision, their weapons charging as they prepared to make an example of humanity's first colony. Commander Taylor's voice boomed across all frequencies. People of Earth, witness the price of defiance. After we destroy your Mars colony, reconsider your foolish stance. The Imperial ships fired in unison, a dazzling display of destructive power. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the Martian surface. Major Thompson waited until the last possible moment. Activate planetary shield. The seemingly empty space above Mars suddenly shimmered as thousands of interconnected energy fields snapped into place. The Imperial barrage struck the shield and dissipated in spectacular bursts of light. On the Imperial command ship, chaos erupted. Impossible, Taylor shouted, slamming his fist against his command console. Planetary shields of this magnitude are beyond their technological level. What the Empire didn't understand was humanity's greatest advantage. They had prepared for this moment not through technological superiority, but through innovation and redundancy. The shield wasn't a single system, but thousands of smaller generators working in harmony, designed by competing Earth nations before unification. As the Imperial fleet paused to recalibrate their weapons, Thompson gave his next order. Execute Operation Hornet's Nest. Across the asteroid belt beyond Mars, hundreds of small, unmanned attack drones activated. These weren't sophisticated warships, but simple, disposable weapons platforms, each carrying a single high-yield nuclear warhead shielded from detection. The drones swarmed from hidden positions within the asteroids, approaching the perfectly organized Imperial formation from all directions. Their attack pattern was deliberately chaotic, following no discernible strategy. "Sir, we have multiple small contacts approaching," an Imperial officer reported. They're not following any recognized attack pattern." Taylor struggled to respond. The Empire's combat doctrines didn't account for completely unpredictable enemy movements. Their targeting systems, designed to track organized formations, struggled to lock onto the erratically moving drones. "Destroy them," he ordered. "All ships, defensive fire." The Imperial vessels broke formation for the first time, firing desperately at the approaching drones. Some were destroyed, but many slipped through, detonating their warheads against Imperial shields. No single drone could damage an Imperial warship, but hundreds detonating simultaneously overwhelmed their shield harmonics. 20 Imperial destroyers exploded in brilliant flashes. 30 more drifted powerless, their systems fried by electromagnetic pulses. "Second wave, launch now," Thompson commanded. From the Martian surface, actual fighter craft piloted by humans shot upward through gaps in the planetary shield. These fighters, unlike the predictable Imperial ships, each flew differently. Some pilots took aggressive, direct approaches. Others used Mars gravity to slingshot into unexpected attack vectors. The Imperial gunners, trained to target standardized flight patterns, couldn't adjust quickly enough. In Earth's Defense Command, Admiral Reynolds watched the battle with quiet satisfaction. "Send the message," she ordered. A transmission cut through the Imperial communication channels. Reynolds' voice was calm, but carried unmistakable resolve. "Commander Taylor, this was merely our first line of defense. We have prepared for this moment for generations. Each further incursion into our system will be met with increasingly severe consequences. We suggest you reconsider your position." As the battered Imperial fleet retreated to regroup, news of the unprecedented defeat spread throughout the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire had failed to subjugate a world on their first attempt. On countless subjugated planets, people looked toward Earth with something long forgotten: hope. The Imperial High Command was in disarray. Fleet Commander Taylor had been summarily executed for his failure, replaced by the more ruthless Admiral Stone. The Empire's response to their military defeat was to establish a blockade around Earth's solar system while planning a more overwhelming assault. What they failed to understand was that humans had always been masters of a different kind of warfare. Dr. Wilson sat in a dimly lit laboratory beneath Geneva, surrounded by screens displaying alien code. As Earth's foremost expert in computational linguistics, she had been tasked with the seemingly impossible: hacking the Imperial network. "Their entire system is built on standardization," she explained to the small team of elite hackers gathered around her. "They value efficiency over security. That's our way in." Using data extracted from the captured scout ship, Wilson's team had spent weeks mapping Imperial communication protocols. The Empire had never faced serious cyber threats. Their conquered worlds were typically too intimidated to attempt resistance after military defeat. "I found it," announced one of the hackers, his eyes reflecting the glow of his screen. "Their authentication system uses a predictable rotation algorithm." Wilson nodded. "Just as I suspected. They've never needed to evolve their cybersecurity. After 72 hours of continuous work, they achieved the impossible: access to the Imperial Information Network. What they discovered shocked even the most cynical among them. The Empire's control was built on information restriction. Most subjugated worlds believed they were the only ones who had ever resisted, and that resistance was futile. Imperial citizens were fed propaganda about the benevolence of their rule, while any hint of rebellion was promptly erased from records. "We can use this," Wilson said, her voice quiet but determined. "The truth is our most powerful weapon." Admiral Reynolds approved the plan immediately. Using the Imperial network itself, Earth began broadcasting the truth to thousands of worlds simultaneously. Evidence of Earth's successful resistance, historical records of other rebellions the Empire had hidden, and most dangerously, ideas about freedom, self-determination, and the right to choose one's own path. "Sir, we're detecting unauthorized transmissions across our entire network," reported an Imperial communications officer to Admiral Stone. "Someone is broadcasting information about the Earth resistance." Stone's face darkened. "Shut it down immediately." "We're trying, sir, but the source keeps shifting. It's as if they're anticipating our countermeasures." The Empire had never faced an information war of this magnitude. Their sensors worked frantically to block the transmissions, but Earth's hackers had anticipated this. They had designed their program to adapt and find new pathways through the Imperial network, staying one step ahead of attempts to silence them. On a mining colony in a distant system, workers gathered around a communication terminal that had suddenly begun displaying images of Earth's successful defense. For decades, they had been told resistance was impossible. "They fought back and won," whispered one worker, hope flickering in her eyes for the first time in years. Similar scenes played out across thousands of Imperial worlds. Questions arose where none had been permitted before. The word Earth became a symbol of defiance whispered in secret conversations throughout the galaxy. The Empire responded by tightening their blockade around Earth's solar system. No ships would be permitted in or out. Admiral Stone assembled a fleet twice the size of the previous force, preparing for a decisive attack that would make an example of this troublesome planet once and for all. What Stone didn't realize was that the blockade played directly into Earth's hands. While the Empire focused on preventing physical movement, Earth's real attack continued through the information channels. Dr. Wilson's team had created an unstoppable cascade of truth that spread like wildfire through Imperial space. In a secure meeting room on Earth, Admiral Reynolds addressed the Planetary Defense Council. "The Empire believes they're containing us, but our ideas are already beyond their reach. Worlds throughout their territory are beginning to question Imperial rule." A council member looked concerned, "But their military still vastly outnumbers ours. When they attack again," Reynolds smiled grimly, "they'll find that we've been preparing for round 2. And this time, we won't just defend. We'll show them exactly what happens when you corner humanity." Throughout the solar system, Earth's forces readied themselves for the coming battle, knowing that with each passing day, their greatest allies, doubt and hope, were spreading throughout the Empire. The Emperor himself had taken notice of Earth's defiance. For the first time in 7 centuries, he summoned his personal dreadnought fleet, massive warships that had crushed rebellions across 3 galaxies. "This primitive world has become a symbol," the Emperor told his assembled war council, his pale blue skin almost white with rage. "Every day their resistance continues. Our authority weakens. I want Earth broken and its people made an example of." Admiral Stone bowed deeply. "The dreadnought fleet has never failed, Your Majesty. Earth will be yours within the week." Across the solar system, Earth's early warning systems detected the arrival of these new ships. Even hardened military commanders felt a chill at their sheer size. Each dreadnought was larger than Manhattan Island, bristling with weapons that could crack a moon in half. Commander Davis watched from the Mars Defense Headquarters as the massive ships approached. A veteran of Earth's old wars before unification, he had seen overwhelming force before. "They think size and power guarantee victory," he told his nervous officers. "But history is full of giants who fell to smaller, smarter opponents." The dreadnoughts moved into position around Mars, ignoring the smaller Earth vessels that scattered before them. Admiral Stone's voice boomed across all channels. "People of Earth, the time for games is over. Surrender now or witness destruction beyond your comprehension." For several tense minutes, there was no response. Then, a simple message from Commander Davis: "We respectfully decline." The dreadnoughts opened fire simultaneously, their energy weapons converging on Mars with enough power to shatter the planet's crust. The planetary shield that had held during the first attack collapsed within seconds under this unprecedented assault. Admiral Stone allowed himself a satisfied smile. As expected, "Prepare landing forces." His orders were cut short by confused reports from his officers. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the Martian surface." "What kind of readings?" Stone demanded. Before anyone could answer, something impossible happened. The space around Mars seemed to bend and warp. The dreadnought's energy weapons, instead of striking the surface, curved around the planet in spiraling patterns before dissipating harmlessly into space. On Earth, Dr. Wilson explained to stunned Defense Council members what they were witnessing. "It's our gravity manipulation technology. We've been developing it in secret for decades." The technology had begun as theoretical research, deemed too impractical for weapons. But Earth scientists, knowing their technological disadvantage against potential alien threats, had pursued it anyway. Commander Davis gave his next order: "Activate Project Singularity." Hidden installations across Mars powered up, creating localized gravity distortion fields. The massive dreadnoughts suddenly found themselves pulled in multiple directions at once. Their rigid structures, designed for conventional space warfare, groaned under forces they were never built to withstand. "Impossible," Stone shouted as warning alarms blared across his command deck. "No pre-integration civilization has gravity manipulation technology." 3 dreadnoughts collapsed inward as their structural integrity failed under the opposing gravitational forces. Others struggled to maintain position as their engines fought against invisible tides pulling them in contradictory directions. Seizing the moment of confusion, Commander Davis launched Earth's counterattack. Small, agile fighters slipped through the disrupted Imperial formation, targeting the dreadnought's now exposed propulsion systems with precision strikes. During this chaos, something unprecedented occurred. An Imperial shuttle broke formation, broadcasting on an emergency channel. "This is General Anderson requesting emergency landing clearance. I seek asylum." A high-ranking Imperial officer defecting was unthinkable. Yet the Empire's failures against what they had dismissed as a primitive world had shaken the faith of even its most loyal servants. Davis cautiously granted clearance, assigning a heavy security detail to meet the shuttle. As the Imperial fleet retreated yet again, suffering losses they hadn't experienced in centuries, General Anderson revealed the Empire's greatest secret to Earth's leaders. The Empire hasn't actually developed new military technology in 500 years, he explained. They've relied on intimidation and superior numbers, not innovation. Your gravity technology has proven what I've long suspected. The Empire is a paper tiger that has forgotten how to evolve. Admiral Reynolds studied the defector carefully. "And why should we trust you?" Anderson's reply was simple. "Because I've seen what happens to civilizations that surrender to the Empire. They lose not just their freedom, but their spirit of innovation, the very thing that has allowed Earth to resist." As news of another Imperial defeat spread throughout the galaxy, the whispers of resistance grew louder. Earth had done more than defend itself. It had exposed the Empire's fundamental weakness. The Imperial palace trembled with the Emperor's fury. Reports flooded in from across his vast domain. Planets that had been subjugated for centuries were suddenly questioning Imperial authority. Some had already declared independence, emboldened by Earth's continued resistance. "This cannot stand," the Emperor raged, his ceremonial staff cracking the marble floor as he slanted down. "Dispatch pacification fleets to every world showing signs of rebellion." His advisors exchanged nervous glances. "Your Majesty, we don't have enough ships to handle simultaneous rebellions across multiple sectors." For the first time in his 300-year reign, the Emperor faced a problem that couldn't be solved through overwhelming force. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Reynolds stood before representatives from 7 formerly subjugated worlds who had risked everything to send envoys to the defiant planet. Earth's quantum communication technology, developed independently from Imperial standards, had allowed secret coordination with these worlds. "For generations, we believed resistance was futile," said one representative, her translucent skin shimmering under the conference room lights. "Earth has shown us otherwise." Reynolds nodded solemnly. "Alone, each of our worlds might fall. Together, we have a chance." Thus was born the Coalition of Free Worlds, the first multi-planet alliance to directly challenge Imperial rule. Earth shared its defensive technologies freely: the gravity manipulation systems, the distributed shield network designs, and most importantly, the unpredictable battle tactics that had confounded Imperial commanders. General Anderson, the Imperial defector, proved invaluable. He revealed the locations of key Imperial supply depots and the schedules of their transport ships. "The Empire's greatest weakness is its supply chain," he explained, pointing to star charts displayed on the war room's main screen. "Their standardized approach means predictable routing. Strike here, here, and here, and you'll cripple their ability to project force across multiple systems." Admiral Reynolds developed a bold plan. Rather than directly engaging Imperial fleets, coalition forces would conduct synchronized strikes against these supply lines. Earth vessels, joined by ships from newly liberated worlds, scattered across the galaxy in small, difficult-to-track groups. The Empire, accustomed to facing enemies head-on, struggled to adapt to this new form of warfare. Their massive warships found themselves stranded without fuel or ammunition, unable to respond to the growing rebellion. Ambassador Clark, Earth's chief diplomat, worked tirelessly to bring more worlds into the coalition. Where military might couldn't reach, ideas flowed freely. The concept of self-determination, once foreign to worlds that had known only imperial rule for countless generations, spread like wildfire. "We don't offer you a new empire with Earth at its center," Clark told representatives from hesitant worlds. "We offer you a choice, the freedom to determine your own future." This radical idea proved more dangerous to imperial control than any weapon. Planets that had been loyal for centuries began questioning their allegiance as news of the coalition spread. 3 months after Earth's second victory, imperial forces found themselves fighting on hundreds of fronts simultaneously. The mighty empire, which had seemed invincible for millennia, began to crumble from within. On a strategic imperial world near the Galactic core, local defense forces turned against their imperial commanders. Their leader addressed her people with words that would have been unthinkable a year earlier. "For too long, we have served masters who see us only as resources to exploit. Today, we join our brothers and sisters across the stars in claiming our right to choose our own path." The Empire responded with brutal force, completely destroying 2 rebellious worlds as examples. But rather than instilling fear, these acts of desperation only hardened the resolve of the coalition. Admiral Reynolds coordinated the largest operation yet, a simultaneous strike against the Empire's central command stations across 3 sectors. Coalition forces, fighting with the passion of those who had tasted freedom for the first time, overwhelmed Imperial defenders who fought only because they were ordered to. As the operation concluded successfully, Reynolds addressed the Coalition Leadership Council. "We've proven that the Empire isn't invincible. Their power was always built on fear and the belief that resistance was impossible. Together, we've shattered that myth." She paused, her expression grave but determined. "But our hardest fight still lies ahead. The Emperor won't let his power slip away without unleashing everything in his arsenal." Across the galaxy, coalition worlds prepared for the inevitable Imperial counterattack, knowing that the fight for freedom had only just begun. The Imperial throne room had never seen such chaos. Emergency reports flooded in from every sector as the once mighty Empire crumbled. Fleet admirals argued over dwindling resources while planetary governors begged for reinforcements against growing rebellions. "Enough." The Emperor's voice cut through the noise. His face, once the picture of serene authority, now twisted with rage. "I will end this myself. Prepare my personal fleet. We will crush Earth and extinguish this flame of rebellion once and for all." Across the galaxy, Coalition intelligence intercepted the Emperor's orders. Admiral Reynolds called an emergency meeting of the Leadership Council. "The Emperor is gathering every remaining loyal ship for one massive assault on Earth," she explained, her voice steadied despite the gravity of the news. "This will be your final attempt to break us." General Anderson studied the tactical display showing the approaching armada. "They're throwing away strategic positioning across dozens of systems just to amass this force. The Emperor has abandoned reason for revenge." "Then we use that against him," Reynolds replied. "It's time for our final move." While coalition forces prepared for the coming battle, Ambassador Clark worked with representatives from over 100 worlds to draft a document unprecedented in galactic history. "We hold these truths to be self-evident," Clark read aloud as the final words were agreed upon. "That all sentient beings are created equal, endowed with the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and self-determination." The Declaration of Galactic Rights was broadcast simultaneously across every communication channel, in every language spoken throughout the former empire. Even imperial citizens, long sheltered from outside information, heard the message that would forever change their understanding of the universe. As the Imperial Armada approached Earth, they faced not just one defiant planet, but the combined forces of the coalition. Ships of different designs from dozens of worlds formed a defensive sphere around humanity's home. From his command ship, the Emperor watched with growing unease. Why do they resist? Don't they understand the prosperity and order we bring? His question remained unanswered as Earth launched its final surprise. From hidden positions throughout the solar system, thousands of gravity manipulation generators activated simultaneously. The space around the Imperial fleet distorted, creating a complex web of gravitational eddies that trapped the massive warships like insects in amber. "Target their command ship," ordered Admiral Reynolds. "All Coalition forces, execute final approach pattern." Coalition vessels, smaller and more maneuverable than their Imperial counterparts, navigated the gravitational distortions with practiced ease. They concentrated fire on the Emperor's flagship, overwhelming its shields through coordinated attacks from multiple vectors. On the Imperial bridge, systems failed one after another. The Emperor, who had never personally experienced defeat, watched in disbelief as his invincible armada was systematically dismantled by forces he had dismissed as primitive just months earlier. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his terrified officers. They were nothing. Backward savages on a single world. The answer came not from his staff, but from Admiral Reynolds herself, broadcasting directly to his command ship. "You fail to understand the fundamental nature of humanity, Emperor. We thrive on challenge. We adapt. We innovate. And most importantly, we will always fight with everything we have for our freedom." As the Emperor's flagship lost power, Coalition forces surrounded it. For the first time in thousands of years, the ruler of the Galactic Empire faced the prospect of defeat and capture. Hours later, on Earth's United Planetary Broadcast Network, Admiral Reynolds stood alongside representatives from every Coalition world. Behind them, the Emperor himself stood in restraints, his once magnificent regalia stripped away. "Today marks a new chapter in galactic history," Reynolds announced. "The Coalition of Free Worlds recognizes the right of all sentient beings to determine their own governance. The age of imperial conquest is over." She turned to face the Emperor directly. "Earth declares, no entry for empires, no entry for conquerors, no entry for any who would impose their will on others." The Declaration of Galactic Rights became the founding document of a new interstellar community. Where the Empire had demanded uniformity, the Coalition celebrated diversity. Where imperial rule had stifled innovation, freedom fostered explosive growth in science, art, and culture. Earth took its place not as a new imperial center, but as the birthplace of an idea that spread across the stars. That freedom, though sometimes chaotic and inefficient, was worth any price. And throughout the galaxy, worlds that had never dared to dream of self-determination began to write their own stories among the stars.